Okay, now we finally get to the fun stuff. We're going to start on the real promotion P that you're all familiar with. When you ask someone what marketing is, they usually tell you it's, well, isn't that interesting? Thank you very much, but no thanks. Speaking of marketing. Okay, they usually say it's advertising and sales, but obviously by now I hope you realize it's much more than that. This is the area between chapters 13 and 14 where most students go into their careers, mainly because there are more positions there than any place else in marketing. So those of you who are marketing majors or thinking about it or might like to do marketing as a career, this is probably what you'll end up doing. Either advertising, consumer promotions, sales, public relations, many of these areas. So 13 and 14 are very important chapters to understand for careers in marketing. Okay, as always, we're going to talk about our objectives for this particular chapter. We're going to look at what advertising is. Now, we've done that a little bit when we kind of did the introduction to communication in those areas. And we've also talked quite a bit about social media. So we're going to take a little more traditional approach now. We're going to talk about what advertising is, the types of advertising. We're going to look at how we develop advertising campaigns and how we evaluate those campaigns or not. Then we're going to look at public relations. That's one piece of the promotion P. And then another one is sales promotion, small promotion P. And we'll talk about those issues. Okay, what is advertising? We think about it, we know what it is, but it is the image of marketing. It's when you put the communication pieces out there, the information pieces, it develops that image of whatever your product or service is going to be. There are large expenditures on traditional advertising. That is changing. We've talked about that. More money is going into sales promotion now as opposed to advertising. And certainly into social media. But advertising is still the way you go for mass audiences. So if you have a new product coming out, you want to hit a large market or areas like that, you do advertising. These are the types of advertising. And we will look at those individually. But you have product or institutional advertising primarily. Retail and local advertising is exactly what it says it is, your retail stores, which could also be institutional advertising. And local advertising are somewhat different. They're done a little differently. You don't have the same expenditures all the time and so on. Okay, product advertising is precisely what it says it is. Product advertising, you can have three types: pioneering, competitive, or comparative. And if we don't do product advertising, we do institutional advertising. Let's look back here for just a moment. Institutional advertising is where you try to create the image of the corporation. So for instance, historically, if we look at Procter & Gamble, they have only done product advertising. Rarely have you ever seen an advertisement for Procter & Gamble. They haven't done it. They haven't needed to. They haven't wanted to. That's not their strategy. However, recently, and I don't know if any of you will remember it because they don't do it that often, but they had one in Super Bowl, probably Super Bowl 2012. And it was an advertisement. It was a TV ad during the Super Bowl just for Procter & Gamble, just about the company. The primary reason they changed their strategy a little bit is to go head-to-head with Walmart. Walmart is that not even 800-pound, more like 8,000-pound gorilla out there that really runs retail. And P&G is pretty much said that that's enough of that. We're going to stop this if we can. So they're trying to build up the image for their corporation to go head-to-head with Walmart. The alternative is product advertising if you don't do institutional. Pioneering, this typically is for something brand new or a different category. when you look at the product life cycle, now we've talked about that already, you usually do pioneering in an introductory stage. Competitive, this is something where you try to increase sales in the growth phase of that product life cycle. And then comparative, which I don't think anybody should ever do unless you do it indirectly, compares competing brands. And I think companies tend to do that if they are way behind the leader or if they're desperate. That's pretty much what they get to. But remember, anytime you advertise for your competition, you're advertising for them. Who creates the advertising? Well, advertising campaign is a coordinated, comprehensive plan that carries out promotion objectives and results in a series of ads placed in media over a period of time. Now, in our syllabus, I've asked you to look at the video on Aflac. And Aflac is an amazing story what they've done, and I think it's really interesting to see what a creative agency did for Aflac. The brand recognition was essentially pretty low, very, very low for Aflac. They had an outside agency, so they hired an agency to do their creative pieces for them, and this creative agency came up with the duck. A lot of companies don't feel they have the creative ability. They don't have the resources, so they rather give it to the experts, so they outsource this piece. And these agencies, now this is an area for career potential. You have a variety of jobs in one of these advertising agencies. Now realize this is where the Procter & Gamble's or the Walmart's or the Costco's or the GM's or the Ford's or the Microsoft outsource their creative side to advertising agencies. And positions within those would be account manager, which is basically the salesperson who sells our services. The creative services, those who, well, just what it says, they put the creative pieces together. This is the group that came up with the duck. All right, research and marketing services, they have to keep up with what's going on, preferably be ahead of what's going on. And then media planning, where are you going to put your spots, what time, what places, how many, what's the message, and so on. This is a very new concept, user-generated advertising concept, the do-it-yourself advertising. UGC, online consumers' comments. This is so much of what we as consumers look at today. Companies must monitor this. They must be careful of who they allow do this. So this is a whole different form of advertising that is very new, and we're not real sure just exactly how to work with it, but clearly this is not a passing fad. Oh, so many ethical issues in advertising, and this comes about because many years ago companies were, well, very unethical in what they did with their advertising. I remember when I was little, and that was like 3,000 years ago, the Saturday morning cartoons, and of course I was glued to those, would have commercials for toys, and the toys very blatantly exaggerated the ability of those toys, such as if they had little boys' cars or something, they would show them going really, really fast. Well, the car didn't move at all unless you moved it. So it's very deceptive. Because of that, there are a lot of laws now. So it's the opinion of many, and advertising industry has done this to themselves, that advertising can be manipulative, can be deceptive. It certainly can be offensive and in bad taste. It can perpetuate stereotypes. And I don't buy this last piece, that advertising causes people to buy things they don't really need. They may not need them, but they may want them. Now, because of this, and I don't necessarily want you to know specific laws regarding advertising regulation, but there are a lot of them. The Federal Trade Commission pretty much oversees advertising. They look at unfair, deceptive advertising, and they can require a company to do corrective advertising. Now, the problem with that, if you've ever seen something in magazines or newspapers or someplace, there'll be little itty-bitty paragraphs somewhere in the newspaper someplace saying that what they'd done was deceptive, where the original ad may have been a full page or something. So they do it, but not as well as they should. The question becomes, what is unfair? And that sometimes comes into place, especially with vulnerable populations. That's a term that we use frequently, such as children, the elderly, the mentally incapacitated, something like that, who cannot perceive that what is being said is not truthful. Because of all the regulation and because of historically all the things that advertisers did, they have attempted to do some self-regulation. That's the NAD. That's made up of various advertisers, advertising agencies in corporate America, and they attempt to self-regulate so that they try to avoid additional regulations. Okay, steps to develop an advertising campaign. First of all, who is our audience? What's the budget? Then create the ad. Now, think about that budget. Those of you who are in accounting or finance may very well be involved in this. Make sure that there is a reason for what the budget is. Okay, create the ads, pre-test them. Make sure you pre-test those things. Choose the media and the schedule, and then make sure you evaluate the advertising. Did it work? Did it meet the objective? And so on. Advertising decisions. Okay, what's the objective going to be? Is it about communication? Is it about creating awareness? Are we trying to increase sales? Which, of course, we cannot prove advertising increases sales. We think it does. Probably does. We're relatively certain, but there is no way to prove that mass advertising increases revenue. There typically is too much time between when the ad is seen and when the customer may or may not buy the product. So it's very hard to prove it works. Budget decisions, affordable approach. That means what can we afford to spend on this, which is probably a bad thing to do. Competitive parity. Let's keep up with the other guys and spend as much as they do, which is also foolish. Percent of sales. That's ludicrous to use it, but most companies use that technique. You know, last year we had $3 billion in sales. We'll give a percentage of that to advertising. You know, remember now that's being based on historical data, which may or may not be accurate for today's data, for the current data, or for the current objectives. What you should do is use objective and task. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's what it will cost to do that. That's what we should do. Message decisions. What are we going to generate? Select the correct one. Execute it and evaluate it. Media decisions, and these are a lot of advertising terms. Reach, how many people will we, quote unquote, reach with this? Frequency, how many times should we show it? What's the impact likely to be? What types of advertising? What's the timing? When should we show it? And so on. Now, don't forget to evaluate that campaign. Did it meet its objectives? That's where your metrics and your controls and your analytics come into play again. Here's digital media. Now, 5 years ago, we didn't really talk about this in the Principles of Marketing class, and look what we do today. Okay, digital media. We can have website advertising. We have banners, pop-up ads, search engines, directory listings, email, mobile advertising, video sharing, all the many, many apps that are out there now, and so on. So this is huge. We're just learning about it, so still a lot to do. Types of major media, and there are only a few of these on here. Newspapers, television, direct mail. There are advantages, limitations to all of them. I'll just use newspapers as an example. Dean Brookwood Farmer was our dean a few years ago, and he chose to put a full-page ad for Wright State's Roslyn College of Business in the Dayton Daily News. He bought the full back page of the business section of a Sunday paper for the Dayton Daily News. And it came out, and the problem with it was that when they printed it, the colors didn't overlay correctly, so that it was just kind of this big blur of stuff. Well, he had a little hissy fit, which he should have. Dayton Daily News reprinted it correctly the following week, but the damage was already done. Anytime you do newspaper, the quality is certainly not the best. So you have to think about that. And I'll let you look at this at your leisure. There are a lot of advantages and disadvantages to various media types, and you really have to go back to your objective to decide what it is you should do. Okay, we're going to switch from advertising, go into public relations. Now, we talked about this when we talked about this whole introduction to communication, and realized that public relations jobs, with one exception, is the lowest paying, typically the lowest paying in organizations. That's because you really can't, once again, prove that public relations impacts revenue or profitability. This is the communication that seeks to build good relations with various publics. You can be proactive or reactive. You try to be proactive and establish the identity of the firm. You don't want to be reactive, which is what crisis management is, but all too often we have to do that. Objectives of sales promotion, once again, know why you're doing this. You're trying to increase customer loyalty. You're trying to get customers away from your competition. You're trying to get brand switchers. You're trying to look for price buyers. This goes back to segmentation. And who is our market? Who is our segment? What are we trying to do? You may want to be trying to do all of those, which means you have various objectives, but then you're going to do different sorts of things. You could have sampling, sweepstakes, trade deals, coupons, and so on and so forth. The role of public relations, you are there to create and evaluate public attitudes. You're there to identify public concerns. You're there to figure out if there is a problem you need to address long before it becomes public. And you try to do things to get the public to gain acceptance of your ideas, your new products, your services, whatever it is you're trying to do. Objectives, introduce new products to retailers or consumers. The big one is influence government legislation. Now, these are called lobbyists, and this is the area of public relations where you can make a lot of money. Most lobbyists are attorneys, and they go and attempt to influence either your local, state, or federal government to do something, be it not create laws, be it to create laws, be it change something. But they try to influence government. You can try to enhance a firm's image. You can provide advice. You can help with public relations in improving the image of a city or a region. There's a lot of that in economic development going on in almost all cities today. Manage a crisis is what you don't want to do. Or you can certainly call attention to the good things that a company is doing with the community. That's a big piece of public relations. But once again, realize that most of this does not impact that bottom line. Public relations tactics. Now, Wright State University has a public relations department. We also have lobbyists who go over to Columbus and attempt to influence decisions primarily with budgets and so on. Press releases of various forms. Oftentimes our student organizations, when we go out and compete, we'll come back and send information to the students' hometowns as to how the teams did. Internal public relations, investor relations, there's your lobbying, speech writing, corporate identity, media relations, sponsorships. If you've ever been fortunate enough to go down to the 3-day event that's held in Lexington, that's horse country, of course. Rolex sponsors that 3-day event. Now, reason? Well, people who go to horse events, and this is, I'm probably going to get this wrong. This is where they do the cross country, they do the dressage, and they do the jumping. Now, those are people who have lots of money, who have those horses. So Rolex, that's a pretty good place to sponsor. They don't have anything to do with the horses, but they sponsor the event. Special events and guerrilla marketing. You will see many corporations doing sponsorships, and that is a wonderful way to try to build your corporate image. A lot of things that are done in this area, and that's a cool thing to do. Okay, we're switching again. This is another part of your promotion P. This is small p promotion, sales promotion. And this sales promotion is where companies are putting more dollars today instead of mass advertising because, now remember, we've turned to analytics and metrics and so on. You can show most of the time that sales promotion does indeed impact bottom line. It does impact sales. That's why companies are putting more money into it. Sales promotion programs designed to build interest or encourage purchase of a product during the specified period of time. This is to provide short-term incentive to consumers. End user, channel partners, your employees, all the above. Types of consumer sales promotion. Well, again, contests, sweepstakes, premium, sampling, coupons, rebates. Side note, be aware that a lot of companies, with your rebates, and you buy something, you send something in, you get a rebate of $6 or $8 or $50, whatever it is. And they usually take 6 to 8 weeks to get it back. Companies have started sending those back, making them look like junk mail, so you throw them away. Whenever you send in a rebate, remember it's coming and don't throw it away when it arrives. Trade promotion. This is the B2B side of sales promotion. To gain new distributors. This is to provide support for the consumer side of things. If you think about a Kroger grocery store, Del Monte may very well have some kind of co-op advertising with Kroger in order to help promote whatever Kroger is promoting of Del Monte's products that particular week, to build or reduce dealer inventories, and to improve trade relations. So there's a lot of trade sales promotion going on. Why the increase? And there is a big increase in sales promotion. So if you're looking at marketing careers, you might think about sales promotion. A lot of advertising agencies have changed a little bit, and they are doing advertising as well as sales promotion for all the obvious reasons. Growing retailer power, and that's being driven, once again, by Walmart. This is what we want, this is what we need, so that's what we do. Declining brand loyalty, big time. Increased promotional sensitivity. We are certainly more aware of certain types of sales promotions. Brand proliferation. There are so many brands out there today. You have to do something above and beyond, something unique, something different. Fragmentation of consumer markets. Our segments are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's becoming more difficult to market to them. Short-term focus. Sales promotion is short-term. And again, because of increased managerial accountability, we've talked about that. We've got our analytics and our metrics. Competition, that drives a lot of sales promotion. And that last piece, which you may not be able to see, sorry about that, is clutter. There's so much going on, so much information, so much data hitting consumers. You have to do something that gets their attention, and sales promotion may very well do that better than advertising. So, that's it for part of our promotion P. So in this we covered advertising, public relations, and sales promotion. Now in the next chapter we will finish that promotion P and carry on. Okay? Take care. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you later.